Hello everyone, so I just saw the new Charlie Kaufman movie, I'm Thinking About Ending Things, and it's the new Netflix movie that just released, and it was great.
Jake, my boyfriend.
It's snowing.
Winter is coming in.
We have a real connection.
So this is, again, the new movie from Charlie Kaufman, who is a writer-director, or writer-turned-director, who is behind some of the most surreal, mind-bending movies of the past decade or so. He did Schenectady, New York from 2007, I think. And it's all about a man who is living his life and then creates an art project about his life. And then Charlie Kaufman's most recent movie, besides this, was Anomalisa, which is a stop-motion animated movie about a man who gets in a relationship with a girl because she is the only one with a voice that isn't the same.
I think you're extraordinary.
Why?
I don't know yet. It's just obvious to me that you are.
The theme with Charlie Kaufman movies is that he seems fixated on both relationships, the human connection, and time, very specifically, which all have holdovers in this movie. This movie is, again, quite surreal. It is very focused on the central relationship in this movie, and it has this interesting time distortion element to it that makes everything kind of weird and sometimes hard to follow. But if you don't know Charlie Kaufman, then going into this movie blind is going to be incredibly difficult to follow. Me knowing that actually helped my experience because the first 20 minutes, pretty straightforward, a car ride where two characters sort of just talk. It's horrifically awkward because they seem to be at the early stages of their relationship where they don't really know a lot about each other, so they're just kind of awkwardly stumbling between talking points. And then after that, it goes off the rails, to put it simply.
I'm thinking of ending things.
Huh?
What?
Did you say something?
I don't think so.
So before we get too far into it, I wanted to talk about my sort of general interpretation of this movie because it begs to be interpreted. Now, this is sort of what I gleaned from it. It's not what everybody will, I'm sure, but it seemed pretty straightforward, at least in my perspective. The movie seems to be simply about relationships and about the specific relationship. And the entire movie is sort of built around the idea or the premise of looking back fondly on past relationships.
Weird.
But the movie is all about their relationship. Like I said, the first act or so of this movie is all about their first stage of their relationship. They're very awkward. There's Jessie Buckley's constantly lost in thought, and Jess, or Jake in the movie, is constantly asking her what she's thinking about or trying to come up with something to say to her. Then they go to his parents' house where the movie goes kind of insane. You see Professor Lupin and Toni Collette in various stages of youth and old age, to put it simply. And it is one of these movies that the longer it goes on, the more things become clear. It has a lot that it's setting up and a lot that it's trying to explain. So a lot of the dialogue is very wordy, it's very philosophical, and that is one thing that I don't much care for in this movie. There is a lot that it is trying to explain to the audience, and at certain points it's a little much, and it starts to feel like all the characters have the same voice, as if Charlie Kaufman is talking out of every mouth in the movie. There are still very clear, full-bodied, and interesting characters, these two main characters being, of course, the focal point. One is sort of artistic and open-minded, and the other is kind of traditional and traditional. I'm trying to think of other words. He's categorized as a verbalist at one point, so he's very meticulous about his word choice, and has these temper tantrums. So the characters are there, but at certain points, they all do start to have this existential talk that just sounds like Charlie Kaufman talking through them.
Jake tells me you're studying quantum psychics.
Physics.
Really?
But there's just something profoundly wrong
Are
here.
you okay?
Yeah.
But everything else, I think it completely nails. This is the first movie outside of maybe Anomalisa that's Charlie Kaufman is really flexing his directorial muscles. In that movie, again, it's stop motion, so you have to have much more precise direction, and that seems to carry over into this movie. It seems a lot more mannered, a lot more precise than maybe in Schenectady, New York, which is still a very well-made movie, but this one is like gorgeous. It's shot beautifully. All of the images are like wonderfully composed. The lighting is gorgeous. It's his best looking movie by far, and that is, I think, perfect to encapsulate this rose-tinted glasses relationship, which is sort of at the center of the movie again. And then she gets in the car and they get on this ride, and it's sort of stormy, not much, a little snow here and there, which seems to represent the storminess in the relationship, or the relationship maybe coming to closer and closer to an end, which is sort of what the title suggests. I'm thinking about ending things. She often repeats this phrase as she's inner monologuing about their relationship. And you get this car ride where they're not talking about much. They're just kind of, again, stumbling between talking points. And it seems as soon as they start to talk about something serious, or Jessie Buckley wants to say something serious, maybe about the relationship, suddenly the car ride is over and they're at his parents' house. And multiple times throughout the movie, this happens. As soon as she seems to want to talk about marriage or their relationship on the whole, the conversation gets veered very harshly into something else, something potentially better. And I think this is to highlight Jake's inability to talk seriously and openly about their relationship. There are so many points where she starts to say something, and then he immediately says, "Oh, we are here now," and then they're at the high school, or, "Oh, my parents are coming down from their rooms now," just as something serious is about to happen. And that seems to be something that is prevailing in a lot of relationships. People refuse to talk about themselves. They refuse to talk about maybe the elephant in the room of things not being great.
I think you're ending things.
Later in the movie, it becomes kind of clear that both of these characters are sort of looking back on what we have just seen, because we are seeing the clip show of these two relationships. And this is represented, I think, best in the segment where they go to Jake's parents' house. They go to his house and they have this horrifically awkward and stomach-churning dinner where they're eating, and then the topics keep switching on a dime, and it's really uncomfortable, and the parents are like fawning after her and after their son, and he seems like tensing up anytime that affection is shown his way. And then after the dinner, suddenly Toni Collette has tinnitus in her ear and she can't hear anything, and then Professor Lupin is saying that she's dead, even though she's right there. And right after this, suddenly he becomes really old, and she goes into Jake's childhood bedroom, and there's the urn of the dog that was just in the movie, and he's super old and leaving notes everywhere because he has Alzheimer's. And then Toni Collette is like bedridden, or she's in a wheelchair, and then she's like a fresh young mom, and then she's in a bed. And so it's showing, I think, these characters' progression in maybe their relationship, the time period of their relationship. There is a part near the end where there's this interpretive dance, and they get married, or they almost get married in this dance. And that seems to be going back to what Jessie Buckley says at one point. I'm forgetting exactly what she says, but she says, like, it's easier to just say yes when someone asks for your number instead of telling them no, and then yeses compound, and then you're suddenly going to the parents' house. And maybe This is where interpretation just reigns supreme. Maybe the parents suddenly fluctuating between old and young is again representing the time period of these two this relationship, this central relationship, how long she knew these parents and watched one of them die and one of them grow into Alzheimer's and maybe try to help them that way. And there's this basement where a lot of her art is on display under a different name, and there's the custodian clothes in the washer, which is another thing we'll talk about, this custodian that keeps getting cut to progressively throughout the movie until Jessie Buckley meets him right at the end.
Soon this will all be a distant memory.
Jessie Buckley keeps hounding him, saying, I gotta get home, I gotta get home, I gotta shift tomorrow, I can't miss work, I gotta get this paper done, all these things, which is maybe a representation of the end of their relationship, and Jake keeps putting it off through one form or another, again, stopping her anytime she wants to talk about it, or just detouring into different places they don't need to be. They're in the freezing cold, and then he wants ice cream. And then, they didn't eat the ice cream, obviously, so he needs to go throw it away. But he can't just throw it out, he's gotta go throw it in a trash can, so he's gotta go to his high school, putting off the inevitable end of their relationship. So they end up at this high school, and he just ditches her. Well, he goes and throws the ice cream away, comes back, and then feels like someone was watching them while they kissed in the car, and he gets all cranky about it and goes after this mysterious person that you see in like 2 frames. And he ditches her, and she has this kind of breakdown where she says, I just said yes to the thing, and then yes and yes and yes, and she seems to be growing more jaded towards the relationship, and she goes into the high school to find him so that she can get home or out of the relationship. And when she goes in, all she finds at first is the custodian, which to me is a very clear older version of Jake, the other main character in the movie, who is progressively being cut to throughout the film. We see him cleaning, the hallways, creepily watching the high school musical while he's cleaning chairs, even though people are in there. And you see him watching a Robert Zemeckis movie, which was really funny, about young love. And there's a waiter or a waitress and a guy that proclaims his love for her, and she gets fired because of it. But they love each other, so at the end of the day, it's great. And he even at one point says that Jessie Buckley is a waitress. And so there seems to be some kind of distortion there between what really happens or what she really was and what his mind wants her to be. And that is represented in that. And the custodian character is him in the future looking back on what we were seeing, their relationship, fondly looking back. And the movie he's watching is sort of his idealized version of their relationship. There's even a point when they're in the car and Jessie Buckley transforms for just a brief moment into the main character or the main girl from that movie.
Who is this?
It's me.
No, it was me.
You get this elaborate interpretive dance, which to me seems to be Jessie Buckley's idealized version of their relationship. Her looking back on it with rose-tinted glasses, which she brings up at multiple points in her inner monologues, which get wordy and explaining what's going on. She says, will I be looking back at this moment just as he is in the same way? Maybe I'll look back on it and have regret, I don't know. And this interpretive dance is all of their relationship. It starts out very nice, and then they're about to get married, and then she gets ripped away by the janitor, who is old him. And that seems to be representing a change in this person that she knew for the worst. So then the janitor kills the young version of him, and the real Jake and Jessie Buckley look at the killed version of him from the interpretive dance, and they both walk away, which is, he's dead, they're different people, and they're both walking away from the relationship. It's like this beautiful, ideal interpretive dance of their relationship. And then right after that, you see the janitor kind of sweeping it all up and away, and then you get I think, his version of their relationship, where he's winning like a Nobel Prize or something, but he's winning it in his childhood high school auditorium where everyone he knows and loves is there in bad old age makeup. So he's looking back on their relationship, possibly if it worked out, then he would win this award, and he won her back, and they're in love, and it was all because of her that he won this award. But the best way that he can do it is at a high school, in a high school musical, and he's singing at the end about their relationship, and it's weird and creepy, and it doesn't work at all, but it's perfect for that character. Both of these interpretations of their relationship, or where their relationship ends up, is perfect for their character, because again, you have Jessie Buckley, who's very artistic, very open-minded, and so the interpretive dance sort of represents her psychosis. And then Jake is very tied down to his belief system. He's very latched on to the past, so the best thing he could come up with is him singing in a high school musical by himself with his mom watching and cheering him on from the sidelines. It's a very weird movie, to put it simply, but that's
And time passes through us, blowing like cold wind. Maybe this is how it was always going to end.
It's all about relationships and the rose-tinted glasses we use to look back on them and maybe see them for not what they are, but for what we wished they were, or what we had hoped they would become. So it's great. Definitely watch it if you're in the mood for an experimental, weird art house movie about relationships. That's like a horror movie at times. I'd probably give it I want to say a 9, but I've only seen it once. So for now, I'll give it an 8. A soft 8, a light 9, strong 8.